Life is a lot like a river. It starts strong and fast, rushing through different stages, just like we grow and change as we live. Along the way, we need strength to handle challenges, resilience to keep going when things get tough, and wisdom to make good choices. As the river of life moves toward its delta, the calm and peaceful place where it meets the ocean, we too reach a stage where life begins to slow down. This stage often happens around 60 years old, and it's a time many call the golden years. But here's the thing, as we enter this stage, the things we once relied on, family, friends, even our past accomplishments, may not feel as strong or reliable anymore. It's natural to feel this way, but ancient Zen and Buddhist teachings offer us a beautiful reminder. Do not seek the flame of comfort from others. Light the lantern within yourself. What does this mean? It's a call to build our own inner strength, to find happiness and peace from within, rather than depending on external sources. Think of it like this. When it gets dark at night, you don't wait for someone else to bring you a flashlight. You light your own lantern. So what does building this inner strength look like? It's about finding what supports us from the inside, not just the outside. These supports are like invisible pillars that help us stand tall, even when the world around us changes. Let's explore these 5 pillars that can help us feel strong, peaceful, and fulfilled as we navigate this special stage of life. Pillar 1, inner peace. As we grow older, life around us begins to change in ways we don't always expect. Family members who were once our constant companions, those who filled our days with laughter, shared meals, and endless conversations, may now be busy with their own responsibilities. Children have grown, careers have shifted, and the world, which once felt so lively and full of activity, can begin to feel quieter, almost hushed. These changes can leave us feeling uncertain, adrift, or even lonely. But here's the good news. Inner peace becomes our strongest and most reliable source of comfort during these times. Inner peace is like a calm lake inside us. Even if the world outside feels stormy, filled with chaos, noise, and unpredictability, the lake within can remain still, serene, and undisturbed. But only if we take care of it. The Buddha once said, "The mind is everything. What you think, you become." These words are a profound reminder that the way we think and what we focus on can shape how we feel and live. If we can learn to calm our minds and find peace within ourselves, we won't depend so much on external things, people, possessions, or circumstances to make us happy. True happiness, after all, isn't something we find outside, it's something we cultivate within. Imagine standing by a tranquil lake at dawn. The water is so still that it mirrors the sky above, reflecting the soft hues of pink and gold as the sun rises. There's a gentle breeze, just enough to create ripples on the surface, but beneath the surface, the water remains calm and undisturbed. This is what inner peace feels like, a deep, unshakable stillness that remains even when life's winds blow fiercely around us. But how do we build this pillar of inner peace? How do we create that calm lake within ourselves, especially when the world feels anything but peaceful? Step 1. Practice mindfulness every day. Mindfulness is the art of being fully present in the moment without judgment. It's about noticing what's happening right now, your breath, your thoughts, the sensations in your body, without getting caught up in the past or worrying about the future. Here's a simple way to start. Sit quietly for a few minutes each day. Close your eyes and notice your breathing. Feel the air entering your nostrils, filling your lungs, and then leaving your body. Thoughts will come, worries, plans, memories, but instead of holding on to them, imagine them as clouds passing through the sky. They come and they go. You don't need to chase them or push them away. Just let them be. Over time, this practice helps you stay calm even when life feels overwhelming. You begin to notice small joys around you, the sound of birds singing, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the taste of your morning tea. These moments, once overlooked, become sources of deep gratitude and peace. Step 2. Accept that nothing lasts forever. One of the hardest truths in life is that everything changes. Relationships evolve, situations shift, and even our feelings are not permanent. This impermanence can feel unsettling at first, but it's also freeing. When we accept that nothing lasts forever, we can stop holding on so tightly and start appreciating what we have in the present moment. Think about a flower. It blooms beautifully, but it doesn't last forever. Knowing this makes its beauty even more special because we value it while it's here. The same is true for moments in life. When we understand that nothing lasts forever, we can let go of regrets about the past or fears about the future. The Buddha taught, all conditioned things are impermanent. This isn't meant to make us sad. It's meant to help us live more fully. When we stop clinging to what's fleeting, we open ourselves to the richness of the present. Step 3. Let go of attachments to outcomes. We often tie our happiness to specific results. We think, if this happens, then I'll feel happy. But what if things don't go the way we hoped? Learning to let go of attachment to outcomes can bring great peace. Imagine planting a tree. You can water it, give it sunlight, and care for it, but you can't control how fast it grows or how many fruits it will give. Instead of worrying about the results, enjoy the process. Watch the leaves grow, feel the joy of nurturing something, and appreciate the effort you're putting in. This is the essence of letting go. It's not about giving up. It's about focusing on what you can control, your actions, your effort, your attitude, and releasing the rest. Step 4. Cultivate gratitude. Gratitude is a powerful way to feel peaceful. Take a moment each day to think about what you're thankful for. It could be something big, like the love of a family member, or something small, like the sound of rain on your window. When we focus on what we have instead of what we've lost or want, we feel more content. For example, let's say you used to travel often, but now spend more time at home. Instead of feeling sad about not traveling, you can find joy in the comfort of home, reading a favorite book, enjoying a cup of tea, or simply sitting in silence. The Buddha said, "Let us rise up and be thankful, for if we didn't learn a lot today, at least we learned a little. And if we didn't learn a little, at least we didn't get sick. And if we got sick, at least we didn't die. So let us all be thankful." Gratitude shifts our focus from scarcity to abundance, from lack to fulfillment. Step 5. Face storms with calmness. Inner peace doesn't mean avoiding challenges or pretending problems don't exist. Instead, it's about staying calm and steady even when life gets tough. Think of a tree in a storm. Its branches might bend and its leaves might fall, but its roots hold it firmly in the ground. Inner peace is like those roots. It keeps us strong, no matter what happens. When you work on building inner peace, you'll notice that life feels less stressful. Problems don't disappear, but your ability to handle them improves. You start to feel stronger and more balanced, even when things are difficult. Let me share a story. There was once an old monk who lived in a small hut at the edge of a village. One day, a storm swept through the area, destroying many homes, including the monk's hut. When the villagers came to check on him, they found him sitting calmly under a tree, watching the sunset. "Aren't you upset about your hut?" they asked. The monk smiled and said, "The storm took my hut, but it gave me the sky. Now I can see the moon and the stars more clearly than ever before." This story reminds us that inner peace isn't about what happens to us. It's about how we respond. When we cultivate peace within ourselves, we can find beauty and opportunity, even in loss. Building inner peace is a journey, not a destination. It takes time and practice, but the rewards are worth it. When you feel calm inside, the world outside becomes less overwhelming. You begin to see beauty in small things and feel connected to the present moment. Inner peace is the first and most important pillar of support as we grow older. It helps us face life's changes with grace and strength. By practicing mindfulness, accepting impermanence, letting go of attachments, and embracing gratitude, we can create a calm and steady foundation that will carry us through any challenge. This journey of finding peace is like planting seeds in a garden. With care and patience, those seeds will grow into something beautiful, bringing us joy and comfort for years to come. Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. Buddha. Pillar 2. Health and vitality. The human body is like a temple, a sacred space that holds your spirit, your essence, your very being. It's the vessel that carries you through life's journey, from the first breath you take to the last. As we grow older, taking care of this temple becomes not just important, but essential. When your body is strong and healthy, you can stay independent, embrace life with vigor, and enjoy a sense of purpose that fuels your days. Zen teachings emphasize the middle way, a path of balance and moderation. It's not about overdoing things, pushing yourself to the brink of exhaustion, or ignoring your health completely. It's about finding harmony, a way to care for your body without going to extremes. After all, health isn't just about physical strength, it's about aligning your body with your mind, creating a synergy that allows you to thrive in every aspect of life. Imagine your body as a temple. It's not just a structure made of flesh and bone, it's a living, breathing sanctuary where your spirit resides. Just as a temple requires care, cleaning, maintenance, and respect, so too does your body. Neglect it, and it begins to crumble. Care for it, and it becomes a place of peace, strength, and vitality. As we age, this temple may show signs of wear. Joints may ache, energy levels may dip, and the resilience we once took for granted may wane. But here's the beautiful truth. It's never too late to start caring for your body. Whether you're 60, 70, or beyond, small, consistent efforts can make a world of difference. Step 1. Move your body every day. Movement is life. It's the rhythm that keeps your body functioning, the flow that keeps your energy alive. But as we age, the idea of exercise can feel daunting. The key is to start small and focus on gentle, sustainable activities that nourish rather than strain. Yoga is a perfect example. It's not just about flexibility or strength, it's about connection. When you move through a yoga sequence, you're not just stretching your muscles, you're breathing deeply, calming your mind, and aligning your body with your spirit. It's a practice that embodies the Zen principle of mindfulness, bringing you into the present moment with every pose. If yoga isn't your thing, consider walking. It's one of the simplest yet most powerful forms of exercise. A daily walk in nature, whether it's through a park, along a beach, or even around your neighborhood, can do wonders for your physical and mental health. The fresh air, the rhythmic motion, the connection to the earth beneath your feet, it's a meditation in motion. And don't underestimate the power of stretching. As we age, our muscles and joints can become stiff, but a few minutes of gentle stretching each day can keep you limber and pain-free. Think of it as oiling the hinges of a door. It keeps everything moving smoothly. Step 2. Choose foods that nourish you. Food is more than fuel, it's medicine. What you put into your body has a profound impact on how you feel, both physically and mentally. Zen teachings remind us to approach eating with mindfulness, savoring each bite and appreciating the nourishment it provides. Focus on fresh, colorful fruits and vegetables. These are nature's gifts, packed with vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants that support your immune system, boost your energy, and protect against disease. Think of your plate as a canvas and fill it with vibrant hues. Deep greens, bright oranges, rich purples. Incorporate whole grains like brown rice, quinoa, and oats. These provide sustained energy, keeping you full and focused throughout the day. And don't forget about healthy proteins. Beans, lentils, fish, and lean meats, which help maintain muscle mass and keep your body strong. But here's the thing, it's not just about what you eat, it's about how you eat. Take your time, choose slowly, savor the flavors. Eating mindfully not only improves digestion, but also helps you connect with the present moment, turning a simple meal into a meditative experience. Step 3. Get plenty of rest. Sleep is like a reset button for your body and mind. It's the time when your body repairs itself, your brain processes the day's events, and your spirit recharges. Yet, as we age, sleep can become elusive. Stress, aches, and the busyness of life can all interfere with restful nights. Creating a bedtime routine can help. Go to bed at the same time each night and wake up at the same time each morning. This helps regulate your body's internal clock, making it easier to fall asleep and wake up feeling refreshed. Avoid screens, phones, TVs, computers, at least an hour before bed. The blue light they emit can disrupt your sleep cycle, making it harder to wind down. Instead, try reading a book, listening to calming music, or practicing deep breathing exercises. And don't underestimate the power of a nap. A short 20-minute nap during the day can boost your energy, improve your mood, and enhance your cognitive function. It's not laziness, it's self-care. Step 4. Balance activity and rest. Life is a dance, and health is about finding the right rhythm between activity and rest. Too much of either can throw you off balance. The key is to listen to your body. If you're feeling tired, rest. If you're feeling stiff, move. It's not about pushing yourself to the limit, it's about honoring your body's needs. Think of it like a garden. If you overwater the plants, they drown. If you underwater them, they wither. But with just the right amount of care, they thrive. Step 5. Cultivate a positive mindset. Health isn't just about the physical, it's about the mental and emotional as well. A positive mindset can have a profound impact on your overall well-being. Practice gratitude. Each day, take a moment to reflect on what you're thankful for. It could be something big, like the love of family, or something small, like the warmth of the sun on your skin. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's lacking to what's abundant, filling your heart with joy and contentment. Surround yourself with positive influences. Spend time with people who uplift and inspire you, and engage in activities that bring you joy. Laughter, connection, and a sense of purpose are all powerful healers. Let me share a story. There was once an elderly woman named May who lived in a small village. Despite her age, she was full of energy and vitality. When people asked her secret, she would smile and say, "I treat my body like a temple and my mind like a garden." Every morning, May would start her day with gentle stretches and a walk through the forest. She ate simple, nourishing meals, savoring each bite. In the evenings, she would sit by the fire, reflecting on the day and giving thanks for the blessings in her life. May's life wasn't without challenges, but she faced them with grace and resilience. She understood that health wasn't just about avoiding illness. It was about living fully, with joy and purpose. Health and vitality are not just about the absence of disease, they're about the presence of life. It's about feeling strong, energized, and capable, no matter your age. By moving your body, nourishing it with wholesome foods, getting plenty of rest, and cultivating a positive mindset, you create a foundation of well-being that supports you in every aspect of life. Remember, your body is your temple. Treat it with care, respect, and love, and it will carry you through life's journey with grace and strength. To keep the body in good health is a duty. Otherwise, we shall not be able to keep our minds strong and clear. Buddha. Pillar 3. Financial independence. In Zen philosophy, financial matters aren't taboo. They're not something to be avoided or whispered about in hushed tones. Instead, they're seen as a natural, even essential part of living a balanced life. Financial independence isn't just about having enough money. It's about creating a sense of autonomy, dignity, and security that allows you to live freely and fully, especially as you age. The Zen proverb says, "A wise person prepares their resources as the river readies its banks." Think about that for a moment. A river doesn't flow haphazardly. It follows its course, guided by the banks that contain it. In the same way, financial independence is about creating boundaries and structures that allow your life to flow smoothly, even when unexpected challenges arise. But here's the thing. Financial independence isn't about hoarding wealth or chasing material possessions. It's about finding freedom. Freedom from worry, freedom from dependence, and freedom to live a life aligned with your values. It's about having enough to meet your needs, handle life's surprises, and enjoy the present moment without the weight of financial stress. Imagine your life as a river. Sometimes it flows gently, and other times it rushes with intensity. Financial independence is like the banks of that river. It provides stability and direction, ensuring that no matter how turbulent the waters become, you stay on course. But how do we build these banks? How do we create a financial foundation that supports us, especially as we grow older and life's uncertainties become more apparent? Step 1. Live within your means. Living within your means is the cornerstone of financial independence. It's about aligning your spending with your values and ensuring that your lifestyle doesn't outpace your income. In today's world, it's easy to get caught up in the pressure to keep up with others, to buy the latest gadgets, wear the trendiest clothes, or take the most extravagant vacations. But Zen teachings remind us that true happiness doesn't come from material possessions. It comes from simplicity, mindfulness, and appreciation for what we already have. Start by tracking your spending. Where does your money go each month? Are there areas where you can cut back? Maybe it's that subscription service you never use, or the impulse purchases that add up over time. By simplifying your spending habits, you free up resources for what truly matters, whether that's saving for the future, investing in meaningful experiences, or supporting causes you care about. Living within your means isn't about deprivation. It's about intentionality. It's about making choices that align with your values and bring you lasting fulfillment, rather than fleeting pleasure. Step 2. Plan for unexpected needs. Life is full of surprises, some delightful, others challenging. A sudden medical expense, a car repair, or a home maintenance issue can quickly derail your financial stability if you're not prepared. That's why building an emergency fund is so important. The Zen concept of impermanence reminds us that nothing in life is permanent. Situations change, circumstances shift, and the unexpected can happen at any time. By preparing for these uncertainties, we create a sense of security that allows us to face life's challenges with grace and resilience. Start small. Set aside a portion of your income each month, even if it's just a few dollars. Over time, these small contributions will grow into a safety net that can catch you when life throws you a curveball. Aim to save enough to cover 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. It may take time, but with consistency and patience, you'll build a solid financial foundation. Step 3. Prioritize experiences over possessions. In a world that often equates success with material wealth, Zen teachings offer a refreshing perspective. True happiness comes from experiences, not possessions. Think about it. When you look back on your life, what do you remember most? Is it the things you owned, or the moments you shared with loved ones, the places you explored, the lessons you learned? Material possessions may bring temporary joy, but experiences create lasting memories and deepen our connection to the world around us. Instead of spending money on things that will eventually lose their value, consider investing in experiences that enrich your life. Travel to a place you've always wanted to visit. Take a class to learn something new. Spend quality time with family and friends. These are the moments that bring meaning and joy to your life. And here's the beautiful part. Prioritizing experiences over possessions also frees you from the cycle of consumerism. You no longer feel the need to buy things to impress others or keep up with trends. Instead, you focus on what truly matters to you, creating a life filled with purpose and fulfillment. Step 4. Embrace simplicity. Simplicity is a core principle of Zen philosophy. It's about letting go of excess and focusing on what truly matters. When it comes to finances, embracing simplicity means living with less, avoiding unnecessary debt, and finding contentment with what you have. Take a look at your financial life. Are there areas where you can simplify? Maybe it's decluttering your spending habits, cutting back on non-essential expenses, or downsizing to a smaller home. By simplifying your finances, you create space for what truly brings you joy. Whether that's saving for the future, investing in meaningful experiences, or giving back to others. Simplicity also extends to your mindset. It's about letting go of the need for external validation and finding contentment within yourself. When you stop chasing after material wealth and start appreciating the abundance you already have, you create a sense of peace and freedom that money can't buy. Step 5. Give back. Financial independence isn't just about taking care of yourself. It's also about having the ability to give back to others. In Zen teachings, generosity, or dana, is one of the key practices for cultivating happiness and fulfillment. Giving back doesn't have to mean donating large sums of money. It can be as simple as offering your time, skills, or kindness to those in need. Volunteer at a local charity, mentor someone who could benefit from your experience, or simply lend a helping hand to a neighbor. When you give back, you create a ripple effect of positivity that extends far beyond yourself. You not only help others, but also deepen your own sense of purpose and connection to the world around you. Let me share a story. There was once a man named Hiroshi who lived in a small village. For most of his life, Hiroshi chased after wealth, believing that money would bring him happiness. He worked long hours, saved diligently, and accumulated a fortune. But despite his wealth, Hiroshi felt empty and unfulfilled. One day, Hiroshi met a Zen monk who asked him, "What is it that you truly seek?" Hiroshi thought for a moment and replied, "I want to be free." The monk smiled and said, "Freedom is not found in wealth, but in simplicity. Let go of what you do not need, and you will find what you truly desire." Inspired by the monk's words, Hiroshi began to simplify his life. He sold his large home and moved into a smaller one. He donated a portion of his wealth to charity and spent more time with his family. Over time, Hiroshi discovered that true freedom came not from money, but from living a life aligned with his values. Financial independence is about more than just money. It's about creating a life of freedom, purpose, and peace. By living within your means, planning for the unexpected, prioritizing experiences over possessions, embracing simplicity, and giving back, you build a solid financial foundation that supports you in every stage of life. Remember, financial independence isn't about accumulating wealth. It's about ensuring that you're free from worry and stress, allowing you to focus on what truly matters. It's about creating a life that flows smoothly, like a river guided by its banks, so that you can navigate life's challenges with grace and resilience. True wealth is not measured by money, but by the freedom to live a life of purpose and peace. Zen proverb. Pillar 4. Meaningful relationships. As we age, life has a way of shifting beneath our feet. The once bustling household grows quiet, children move on to build their own lives, and friends we once saw daily may now be miles or even worlds apart. Relationships, like seasons, change. But here's the beautiful truth. While the quantity of our connections may dwindle, the quality of those that remain becomes more important than ever. True relationships, those built on mutual respect, kindness, and shared growth, are the threads that weave the fabric of a fulfilling life. They are the warmth in the cold, the light in the dark, and the anchor in the storm. In Zen teachings, these connections are known as kalyana mitra, or spiritual friendships. These are not just ordinary bonds. They are relationships where both individuals uplift and inspire each other, sharing wisdom, compassion, and a deep sense of understanding. Imagine a friendship where every conversation feels like a gentle rain nourishing your soul, where every shared silence is as meaningful as 1,000 words, where you feel seen, heard, and valued for who you truly are. This is the essence of kalyana mitra, a spiritual friendship that transcends the superficial and touches the very core of your being. In Buddhism, kalyana mitra is considered one of the greatest blessings in life. These relationships are not based on convenience or superficial qualities like status or wealth. Instead, they are rooted in a shared desire to grow, to learn, and to support one another on the path to inner peace and enlightenment. The Buddha once said, "A good friend is like a sheltering tree." Think about that for a moment. A tree provides shade, shelter, and sustenance. It stands tall and steady, even in the fiercest storms. In the same way, a true friend offers comfort, support, and strength, no matter what life throws your way. Step 1. Focus on quality, not quantity. In a world that often values quantity over quality, it's easy to get caught up in the idea that more is better. More friends, more followers, more connections. But as we age, we begin to realize that the number of relationships we have is far less important than the depth of those relationships. Think about it. Would you rather have 100 acquaintances who barely know your name, or a handful of friends who truly understand your heart? The answer is clear. To nurture this pillar, focus on building deeper connections with those who truly matter to you. These are the people who show up for you when times get tough, who listen without judgment, and who care about your well-being. They are the ones who bring positivity into your life, who encourage you to be the best version of yourself, and who celebrate your successes as if they were their own. Spending time with these individuals is not just enjoyable, it's nourishing. It fills your cup, replenishes your spirit, and reminds you that you are not alone on this journey. Step 2. Practice compassion and understanding. Compassion is the heart of any meaningful relationship. It's the ability to see beyond someone's words and actions, to understand their struggles, and to offer support without judgment. In Zen teachings, compassion is not just a feeling, it's an action. It's the practice of metta, or loving kindness, extended to all beings. To cultivate compassion in your relationships, start by listening, truly listening, not just to the words being spoken, but to the emotions behind them. When someone shares their struggles, resist the urge to offer quick fixes or advice. Instead, simply be present. Hold space for their pain. Offer a kind word, a gentle touch, or even just your silent presence. Compassion also means being patient with others and with yourself. Relationships, like gardens, take time to grow. There will be moments of misunderstanding, frustration, and even conflict. But when you approach these moments with compassion, you create a safe space where trust and mutual respect can flourish. Step 3. Let go of toxic ties. Not all relationships are healthy or beneficial. Some, though once meaningful, may become toxic or draining over time. These are the relationships that leave you feeling exhausted, anxious, or even sad after every interaction. Letting go of toxic ties is not about being unkind or abandoning someone in need. It's about protecting your own well-being. As the saying goes, you can't pour from an empty cup. If a relationship consistently drains your energy or undermines your peace of mind, it may be time to step back, or even sever ties altogether. This process can be difficult, especially if the relationship is with a family member or someone you've known for a long time. But remember, you have the right to prioritize your own mental and emotional health. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you release the hold that person has over you, creating space for healthier, more fulfilling connections. Step 4. Build trust and loyalty. Trust is the foundation of any meaningful relationship. Without it, there can be no real connection or understanding. Building trust takes time, patience, and consistency. It's about being reliable, honest, and respectful toward the other person. In Zen teachings, trust is closely linked to the practice of sila, or ethical conduct. Being trustworthy means living with integrity and treating others with kindness and respect. It means keeping your promises, being honest even when it's difficult, and showing up for the people you care about, no matter what. When trust is present in a relationship, both people feel safe and supported. They know they can rely on each other in times of need and that their bond is unshakable. This sense of security allows the relationship to deepen and grow, creating a foundation of mutual respect and loyalty. Step 5. Support each other's growth. Meaningful relationships are not stagnant, they are dynamic and evolving. In a healthy relationship, both individuals encourage each other's growth and development. This is where mutual respect comes into play. Supporting someone's growth doesn't mean trying to fix them or change who they are. It means accepting them as they are, while also encouraging them to reach their highest potential. It means celebrating their successes, offering guidance during their struggles, and standing by their side as they navigate life's challenges. In Zen philosophy, personal growth is a lifelong journey. The path to enlightenment is not something that can be achieved alone. It requires the support and wisdom of others. In a spiritual friendship, both individuals share their knowledge, offer guidance, and help each other on the path to self-realization. Let me share a story. There were once two friends, May and Lin, who had known each other since childhood. Over the years, their lives took different paths. May became a teacher, while Lin traveled the world as an artist. Despite the distance, their friendship remained strong. One day, Lin returned home feeling lost and uncertain. She had achieved success in her career, but something was missing. May listened patiently as Lin shared her struggles. Instead of offering advice, May simply said, "You are enough, just as you are." Those words stayed with Lin. They reminded her that her worth was not tied to her achievements or possessions. With May's support, Lin began to explore new passions and rediscover her sense of purpose. Years later, Lin would say that May's friendship was like a lantern in the dark, a steady, guiding light that helped her find her way. Meaningful relationships are the heart and soul of a fulfilling life. They provide warmth, support, and a sense of belonging that nothing else can. As you age, these connections become even more important, offering comfort and companionship during life's quieter moments. To nurture this pillar, focus on quality over quantity. Practice compassion and understanding. Let go of toxic ties, build trust and loyalty, and support each other's growth. These are the relationships that will stand the test of time, offering you strength, joy, and a deep sense of connection. Remember, the greatest gift you can give someone is your presence, your time, your attention, and your love. In a world that often feels disconnected, these small acts of kindness can create ripples of positivity that extend far beyond yourself. In the sweetness of friendship, let there be laughter and sharing of pleasures. For in the dew of little things, the heart finds its morning and is refreshed. Khalil Gibran. Pillar 5. Lifelong learning and purpose. As you enter your later years, there's an ever-present need to feel connected to something greater than yourself. It's a yearning that goes beyond the mundane, beyond the routines of daily life. It's a call to explore, to grow, and to find meaning in every moment. Lifelong learning and purpose are the twin flames that breathe vitality into your life, ensuring that every day remains filled with excitement, curiosity, and a deep sense of fulfillment. The Buddha once said, "When the mind stops seeking, the spirit begins to wither." These words are a profound reminder that growth doesn't end with age. In fact, it's quite the opposite. As long as you remain curious and open to new experiences, your spirit stays alive, vibrant, and full of potential. Imagine your mind as a vast, uncharted landscape. Every new skill you learn, every book you read, every conversation you have is like planting a seed in this landscape. Over time, these seeds grow into a lush, thriving garden, a testament to your curiosity and willingness to explore. Lifelong learning isn't just about acquiring knowledge, it's about keeping your mind active, engaged, and constantly evolving. It's about challenging yourself to step outside your comfort zone, to embrace the unknown, and to discover new passions that ignite your soul. Studies have shown that learning new things can help keep your mind sharp, increase your resilience to stress, and even improve your overall happiness. But beyond the science, there's something deeply spiritual about the act of learning. It's a way of staying connected to the world, to others, and to yourself. Step 1. Stay curious. Curiosity is the spark that fuels lifelong learning. It's the driving force behind every discovery, every innovation, and every moment of wonder. When you stay curious, you open yourself up to a world of possibilities. Here are some ways to cultivate curiosity. Read regularly. Books are portals to new worlds, new ideas, and new perspectives. Whether it's fiction, nonfiction, or poetry, reading expands your mind and enriches your soul. Take classes or online courses. Many educational platforms offer free or affordable courses on topics ranging from history and science to art and technology. You can learn at your own pace and explore subjects that fascinate you. Explore new skills. Have you always wanted to play a musical instrument, learn a new language, or try your hand at painting? Now is the perfect time to start. Curiosity doesn't have an age limit. Whether you're 60, 70, or beyond, there's always something new to discover. Step 2. Give back. One of the most fulfilling ways to ensure that your later years are filled with purpose is to give back to the community and share your knowledge with others. This isn't just about offering advice or wisdom to younger generations, although that's part of it. It's about using your skills, time, or resources to help others in meaningful ways. When you give back, you're not only helping others, you're helping yourself. Acts of kindness, whether big or small, have been shown to boost your own happiness and well-being. They create a sense of connection, provide a sense of purpose, and offer opportunities to continue learning and growing through new experiences. Zen teachings emphasize the idea of dana, or generosity. Giving isn't just about material things, it's about sharing your time, your skills, and your kindness. Whether you volunteer at a local charity, mentor a younger person, or simply lend a helping hand to a neighbor, giving back is one of the most powerful ways to remain engaged with life and continue to find meaning in your later years. Step 3. Pursue passion projects. As we age, it's easy to believe that we should slow down and take it easy. While it's important to rest and care for your health, it's also crucial to continue pursuing activities that bring you joy and spark your creativity. These passion projects don't have to be grand or life-changing. They simply need to be something that excites and fulfills you. Zen philosophy teaches us to live fully in the present moment. It encourages us to engage in activities that bring us joy without worrying about the end result. Pursuing a passion project allows you to focus on the process, not just the outcome. Whether it's gardening, writing, painting, or learning how to bake, engaging in a hobby you love can provide a sense of accomplishment and joy. Don't worry if your passion project doesn't make you famous or bring you financial rewards. What matters is that you're doing something that makes you feel alive and connected to your inner self. As you age, these projects can become your creative outlet, a way to express your personality, and a source of fulfillment. Purpose is the light that guides you through life's challenges. It's what gives you direction, motivation, and a reason to wake up every morning with energy and enthusiasm. Without purpose, life can feel empty and directionless. But with it, even the most mundane tasks can feel meaningful. The Buddha taught that purpose is not something you find once and then leave behind. It's something that evolves with you as you grow older. When you're young, your purpose might be tied to your career or raising a family. But as you age, your purpose may shift. It might become rooted in family, community service, or creative expression. The key is to remain open to discovering new sources of purpose, even in the later stages of life. Whether it's through lifelong learning, helping others, or engaging in passion projects, purpose gives you a reason to keep moving forward, to keep growing, and to keep living fully. Let me share a story. There was once an elderly man named Haruto who lived in a small village. For most of his life, Haruto worked as a carpenter, building homes and furniture for his community. But as he grew older, his hands became less steady, and he could no longer work as he once did. At first, Haruto felt lost. He had always defined himself by his work, and without it, he felt like he had no purpose. But one day, a young boy from the village came to him, asking if Haruto could teach him how to carve wood. Haruto agreed, and as he began to teach the boy, something remarkable happened. He realized that his purpose wasn't just in building things, it was in sharing his knowledge and skills with others. Over time, Haruto became a mentor to many young people in the village, passing on his craft and his wisdom. Years later, Haruto would say that teaching gave him a new sense of purpose, one that filled his days with joy and meaning. Lifelong learning and purpose are the twin pillars that keep you vibrant, engaged, and ready for whatever life has to offer. No matter your age, there is always something new to learn, something new to explore, and someone new to help. By staying curious, giving back, and pursuing passion projects, you breathe new life into your later years. Purpose becomes the light that guides you through the challenges and changes that come with age. It gives you strength during difficult times and helps you stay connected to the world around you. Remember, the journey of lifelong learning and purpose is not a destination. It's a continuous unfolding. Like a river that flows endlessly, it carries you forward, offering new opportunities for growth, discovery, and fulfillment. The purpose of life is not to be happy. It is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well. Ralph Waldo Emerson. As you reflect on these 5 pillars, inner peace, health, financial independence, meaningful relationships, and purpose, you'll see that they're more than just principles to live by. They're a legacy, a way of living that supports not only your own well-being, but also inspires others to lead fulfilling and meaningful lives. Remember, aging isn't about decline, it's about refinement. By focusing on what truly matters, you ensure that your later years are filled with peace, joy, and purpose. Thank you for watching. If this video inspired you, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more insightful content. Let us know in the comments how you plan to embrace these pillars in your life. Until next time, may your journey be filled with peace, resilience, and purpose.